Okay, let's keep going with our exponent rules. Today we're going to be continuing to simplify monomials, looking at the quotient rule, and we're going to also take a look at negative exponents or negative powers and zero powers again, okay? So let's go ahead and warm up a little bit with these three problems. Go ahead and hit pause and start kind of taking a look at them, and I will catch up with you shortly. Okay, let's see how you did. So remember, when I have multiple variables that are the same in fraction form, I really want to simplify horizontally first to make it as easy as possible before I go up and down. So if I put my x's together, I see that's x to the sixth, y to the third on top, and I'm going to go ahead and write my 4x squared on the bottom. And I have to remember that there's technically a 1 there. Okay, there's technically a 1 there. So remember, if we break this up into our division, like we did yesterday, then I have x6, x squared, and a y3 over 1. So simplifying, 1 over 4 is not going to change. But my x to the fourth and x squared, remember, I subtract these two. So 6 minus 2 is 4, so that's x to the fourth, and then the y to the 3 is not going to change. So there's my answer. There's my answer. Okay, so if you were waiting for me to kind of do a little explanation, hit pause, try the next one. All right, let's see how we did. Again, work across the top, across the bottom, and then go up and down. So 2 times 3 is 6. And I see there's only one x on top. 3 plus 3 is 6. So there's my y's. I'm going to rewrite my bottom, and I'm going to work from there. So 6 over 3. Remember, now this time I'm going up and down. x1, x squared, and y6, y4. Now remember, the bigger numbers matter here with our powers. So if I take 6 divided by 3, that gives me 2. So the 2 is technically on top because 6 is the bigger number. Well, x's, remember that is 1x on top and 2x on the bottom. That's going to cancel. I have an x left on the bottom. So 2 minus 1 is 1. It's on the bottom. 6 minus 4, there's my bigger number. It's on top. So my answer is 2y squared over x. And if I want to leave it 2y squared over 1x, that's really the same thing. Okay, so one of the new things we're going to look at today is what do we do with negative powers? Okay, what do we do with negative powers? Well, we can't leave them in there, okay? We can't leave them in there. So what we're going to do is make them positive. And to make them positive, we're going to flip and switch them. Okay, we're going to flip and switch them. So we're going to move them from the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top if they are negative. Okay, if they are negative. So let's start by taking a look at this r to the negative 5. It's negative on top. So I'm going to move it to the bottom and make it positive. So I've done that one. S to the negative 2. Well, that's on top. It's going to go to the bottom and become positive. Okay, now this R3, that's already positive, so it's going to stay on the bottom. And there's one left, this s to the negative 3. It's on the bottom. Well, it needs to go to the top. So I'm going to move it to the top and make it positive. Okay, so now I have a problem that kind of looks like what I just did. So let's work horizontally. So I see that I have s to the third on top. I have to put these r's together on the bottom. So 5 plus 3 is 8. And I still have an s squared. And then simplifying, I see that I have a 1 and an R8, an S3, and an S2. Well, the 1 and the R8 are not going to change because there's no more R's, but my 3 minus 2 is going to leave me with 1S, and it's on top. Okay, it's on top. So we're going to see as we work through these negatives that it really doesn't change things too much. It just adds an extra step where we have to make things positive. Okay. All right, go ahead and see what you can do with these two. All right, let's see how you did. So I'm going to go ahead and break these up into my 3 pieces, my 4 pieces, I guess there's 4 variables. And I'm going to simplify each piece, deciding where the variables go. Okay, so negative 6 over 18, negative 6 divided by 18, hit my fraction key. That is negative 1 over 3. And remember, the negative is going to go on top with the top number, so negative 1 divided by 3. And if I deal with my r's, I see this is my bigger number, so 7 minus 3 is 4. There's going to be 4 r's left on the bottom. Well, 5 minus 5 is 0, so this is technically gone. There's no s's left, and I have a t squared on the bottom. So my answer is negative 1 divided by 3r4t squared. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. So I have to distribute. I see a power to power rule there. So 4, 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 2 is 2. And 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, so we can go ahead and look at this in terms of division. We can put it in just like that in our calculator. So 4 squared divided by 2 squared. Whoops, I got to clear that off. I got too much stuff in there. So 4 squared divided by, make sure it turns into a fraction. You don't get caught in leaving it up there in the power, squared, gives me a total of 4. So remember, that's actually over 1. Okay, that's actually over 1. Now let's take a look at our a's. I have an a squared and an a to the 8th. Well, 8 minus 2 is 6. This is my bigger number, so it's going to go on the bottom. So my answer is 4 divided by a to the 6th. Okay, let's spend some time talking about the negative powers. Okay, the rest of our time is going to really be focused on that, plus a few zeros. So it's really important that you see that when we have a negative power, we see that it moves to the bottom, and that is called the reciprocal. Okay, that is called the reciprocal. That's the flip that I was talking about. That's the flip. Okay, so if it's going to be on the top, it has to go to the bottom, the denominator of the fraction. If it's on the bottom, it needs to go to the top, to the numerator. So let's take a look at what's going on here. Okay, so this is technically over 1. So remember, it's a flip and switch. Okay, so flip and switch. So I have to flip it and make it positive. So it's going to go from the top to the bottom. So 3 to the positive 2. And of course, since it's a fraction, there's technically a 1 on top. So 1 over 3 squared is technically 1 over 9. This next one, it's on the bottom, so it has to go to the top. So 4 to the positive 3. And again, there's still a 1 on the bottom. And 4, if I can't remember what that one is, 4 to the 3rd power is 64. So this is actually 64. Okay, now let's take a look at this next one, because this one gets a little trickier. The 5 has a power of 1. It stays where it's at. The x to the negative 4 is the one that has to move. So the x to the 4th has to drop to the bottom. And again, it becomes positive. So it stays 5x over x to the 4th. Now, what happens when we have 2 of them? Well, they're both going to move. So the a to the negative 3 goes to the bottom and becomes positive. The b to the negative 5 goes to the top and becomes positive. So now I have b to the 5th divided by a to the 3rd. All right, let's take a look at some of these and see what's going on with these. So we know that anytime we have a power on the outside, that's a distributive property. So I have negative 3, 1 times 0 is 0, 5 times 0 is 0. Well, what is 3 to the 0? 3 to the 0 power, that's 1. What's 5 to the 0? That's also 1. So this is really negative 1 divided by 1, which is negative 1. All right, let's look at this one. So I have a 3. This guy needs to go to the top. So times 2 cubed. Well, what is 3 times 2 cubed? That is 24. That is 24. All right, let's take a look at this one. So this 9 to the negative 4, that has to go to the bottom because technically this is over 1. Let me write that a little bit better. So 9 to the 4th, and this 9 to the 7th is going to stay because it's positive. And then I have to simplify, okay? So 7 minus 4 is 3. I know the bigger number is on top. Well, 9 to the 3rd power is 729. So that's 729. Now, the product rule works the same way if I have distribution. With negatives, it's the same thing. So 4, negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. So that means it has to flip, and it's going to be 1 over 4 to the 4th. Well, 4 to the 4th is 256. So this is really 1 over 256. What about this one? Well, first of all, I see 12 to the 0 power. 12 to the 0 power is 1, so I'm just going to cross it out because I don't even care about it. It's gone. And then I think about this part. Well, the 3 to the negative 2 needs to go to the top, so that's a 3 squared, that's a 1. 3 squared I know is 9. I can just ignore this 1 right here. 9 over 1 is just 9. So you can see all we're really doing is moving them from the top to the bottom as we kind of simplify, okay? So go ahead and hit pause, see what you can do with the left-hand side, the ABC, and then I'll kind of get you started on D and E, and we'll finish this section up. All right, so if you remember, this tells me I have to switch location. So there's still a 1 up here. So 1, y to the 6. It's done. All right, this one, the 7 stays on top. The c to the 4 needs to go to the bottom. So 7 over c to the 4th. This next one, the 2 and the s3 are going to stay, but the r squared needs to come up. So 2s cubed, r squared would be my answer. Now this next one, I have to distribute, okay? So I have 5 to the negative 3 and a to the negative 3, technically over 1, which would mean things have to move. So 1 over 5 to the 3rd, a to the 3rd, those are positive. And if I evaluate 5 to the 3rd power, I see that that is, whoops, I did 5 squared. 5 to the 3rd power is 125. So I have 1 over 125 a cubed. Okay, see what you can do with E. All right, let's distribute. So 3, 1 times negative 4 is 4, and negative times negative is positive. Remember, this is technically over 1. So if I move things to make them positive, x to the 4th, move the negative 4, and then evaluate. 3 to the 4th power is 81. So x to the 4th over 81. And I'm done. All right, so let's see what you can do with these today. Reach out to us if you're struggling. We're going to ramp it up in terms of difficulty over the next couple of days. So make sure that you're asking questions.